Atem shel Yisrael. Atem shel Yisrael. To a Hebrew-speaking native, it's an odd question. It doesn't sound quite right. We're used to the question, Atem me'Yisrael? Are you from Israel? Atem be'ad Yisrael? Are you for Israel? Atem shel Yisrael is strange. It means something like, are you of Israel? It connotes belonging. Do you belong to Israel? Are you Israel's? It's an awkward question, but I want to suggest to you this evening that it is the question that we ought to be asking ourselves in the world that we live in today, in the world in which we are raising our children. On the morning of October 7th, 2023, Dolev and Odaya Suisa woke up to the sounds of sirens, like so many others in Israel. Being residents of Sderot, they were no strangers to sirens. But somehow, for some reason, they felt that this morning was different. Perhaps it was the intensity of the rocket fire overhead. Perhaps it was the frequency of the sirens, but something said to them this was different, and so they decided they were going to grab the suitcase that they kept packed for such an occasion. That they were going to wake up their children, Romy, age 6, Leah, age 3, get into the car and head for safety. What the Suisas didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that the danger that day in Sderot was not only up in the skies above, but was already very much on the ground. The unthinkable had happened. Terrorists had crossed over from Gaza, infiltrated the city of Sderot, and were shooting anything that moved. And so not far from their family home, the Suisas' car came under attack. We don't know why, and we never will, but they decided they were best off perhaps splitting up, perhaps diverting the terrorists, but what we know is that Dolev grabbed Romy and they ran. Odaya and Leah stayed in the running car. Dolev and Romy, they ran, but they could not outrun the terrorists. Dolev was shot, wounds from which he would ultimately succumb. Romy, the 6-year-old, had the presence of mind after her father was shot to run back to the car, go back to her mother, climb back into the car which was still running. We assume a mother overcome by shock. Well, a few minutes later, another car pulls up. It sees this car stopped in the middle of the road. And the driver of the second car, a man by the name of Amr Abu Sabila, gets out of his car and he approaches a Suisas car. He looks in. He sees there were 2 children in the back seat. He sees that there is a mother in the passenger's seat. He sees that there was nobody in the driver's seat. And Abu Sabila does what any hero would do. He abandons his car. He gets into the Suisas car. He gets behind the wheel and he starts to drive. He drives them to the place he believes they will be safest. He takes them to the police station in Sderot. But what Abu Sabila could not have known on that fateful day in October was that the terrorists had already surrounded the police station in Sderot. And so as the car approaches, it comes under attack once again. This time it is Amr Abu Sabila who is shot and killed. The father of 2 little children himself, with a wife who is pregnant, expecting their third. And then it was Odaya Suisa, mother of Romy and Leah, who was shot and killed. On their security cameras inside the police station, they could see the car. They saw what was happening. And somebody noticed that there were 2 children in the back seat, still very much alive. And so the police in Sderot decided that they have to go out and try to save those children. And so a group of them head out under fire to approach the car. And Romy, the 6-year-old, sees them coming. And she begins to panic again. Another group of people with guns coming to their car. And so the police, they scream out, "Mishtara, Mishtara, we're the police." And Romy looks at them and she says, "Atem Yisrael? Are you ours? Atem Yisrael? Are you good? Atem Yisrael? Ken Hamuda. Ken. Yes, sweetheart. Yes, said the police in response. K'chu otanu, says Romy. Yesh kan tinoket. There's a baby in the car, says the 6-year-old to the adult. I have a baby here. K'chu otanu.
כן, חמודה, כן. אנחנו ניקח אתכם. בואי. אז בסדר, אני איתך.
אתם מישראל? אתם של ישראל? Many in this room are Mei Israel. Many here are Israelis. You lived there, you were born there. But most of us in the room are not. And for decades, I'd say even generations now. For those of us who live in the diaspora, we were not Mei Israel. We were not from Israel. It was good enough to be for Israel. Generations grew up thinking that what we had to be is pro-Israel. That was our job here in the diaspora. I want to suggest to you tonight that that is not enough anymore. It is not enough to be for Israel. I want to suggest to you that there's a space between being from Israel, which most of us will never be, and being for Israel, which is what we used to be. It's a different space, it's a new space, and a space that I want to name in honor of Romy Suisa. It is to be Shel Yisrael. It is to be of Israel. And let me explain the difference. You see, to be for Israel is a political position. It's a stance we take in a debate. It's an intellectual space and an important one, don't get me wrong. But the thing about an intellectual space, a position in a debate, a political stance, is that it can change. Being from Israel doesn't ever change. We need to create a space where we are of Israel, where our connection to Israel is so deep, it's so part of who we are. We feel this sense of belonging that it too cannot change. Because you see, the problem is, when you are for Israel, when it's a political position, or if I'm for Israel because my parents are for Israel and pro-Israel, and my teachers are for Israel and pro-Israel, well, what happens when I leave my parents' house? And I begin to surround myself with a different set of teachers whose political outlook might be a little different. We need to be of Israel, not for Israel. To be of Israel, to be Shel Yisrael, means that when an alert goes off on our phone that says there's another rocket attack, that sirens are blaring in Israel again, our heart begins to flutter. Our anxiety goes up. We feel like we need to run for shelter. To be of Israel, to be Shel Yisrael, means that when we read of another boy, another man, another father, another brother, another son who has fallen in Lebanon or in Gaza, our hearts are broken. To be Shel Yisrael means that when we hear the voice of Romy Suissa saying to the police, Yesh kan tinoket, we want nothing more than to wrap those kids up in our arms and hug them like they're our own. That's what it means to be Shel Yisrael. To be Shel Yisrael is to understand Israel, but not as an outsider looking in, but as an insider standing tall. To understand Israel as an insider means to understand that Israel is not a genocidal state. It means to understand that Israel is an albeit imperfect state, filled with imperfect people who are doing their best to fight a war of survival against an enemy who knows that our Achilles heel, our weakest point, is our ethics and our morality, who uses the value we place in the dignity of human life as their greatest weapon against us. To be of Israel is to understand Israel from the inside and know that no, contrary to what you read today, Israel is not interested in territorial expansion. No, we don't want to be in Lebanon. We don't want to be in Syria. No, we don't even want to be in Gaza. You know, things haven't changed much in 2,000 years. Hatikva bat shnot alpayim liot am chofshi be'artzenu. The dream, the hope for 2,000 years has been to be a free people in our land, not somebody else's. All we want is to live in our own homes, b'sheket u'b'shalva, in quiet, in peace. To be Shel Yisrael is to understand that from the inside. And to be Shel Yisrael is to understand that while the world may want to make this out to be a war of Arabs against Israelis, of Islam versus Judaism, we know that it's actually far more complicated and far more nuanced than that. After all, Amr Abu Sabila was a Muslim, an Arab, and he gave his life to save Jews. And he's not the only one. To be of Israel tonight means that our connection to Israel is not a political one, which allows us to be political. We can take a political stand if our connection is not pro-Israel, but of Israel. We can agree with the current government, and we can disagree. We can be pro-judicial reform, and we can be against. And it doesn't shake our connection to the state of Israel. In fact, you can even take a controversial stand. Like a religious Zionist rabbi like me, who spent 2 years living and learning in Yehuda v'Shomron, in the West Bank, can stand up on a stage like this one and speak to 400 ardent Zionists like you and say, without qualms, that settler violence against innocent Palestinians is inexcusable, it's reprehensible, and it's anathema to everything that the Torah stands for. And yet, what a small group of people in Israel are doing, who are radical, but dangerous, does not shake my connection to the state of Israel. It doesn't shatter anything because Israel is me and I am it. The connection is unbreakable, no matter what some people will or want to. And to be Shel Yisrael right now, as the sun sets, and we switch from thinking about Yom HaZikaron to Yom HaAtzmaut, is to be reminded that to be connected to Israel is not simply to suffer with the Jewish people and the state of Israel, but to celebrate with it. To be Shel Yisrael means that it's not enough to be pro-Israel. We need to take pride in Israel. We need to take pride in all of her accomplishments over the past 78 years. We need to take pride in what she's become and what still remains to be seen. We need to take pride in what she's done technologically, her ingenuity, her creativity. We need to take pride in the way in which it's helping us to see a future that few people in the world can see, and the way it's connecting us to our past. We need to take pride in the universities and the high-tech industry and the yeshivot and the Torah learning, which surpasses anything we've seen in the history of the Jewish people. And to be Shel Yisrael. To be Shel Yisrael today means that we don't just support Israel, but Israel supports us. You see, today, the strength of Israel has to come and support us who are facing all sorts of challenges in the diaspora. Anti-Semitism on the rise, fear that we have in our own homes, in our own communities. Well, we can no longer just support them, but they can begin to support us. Because you know what happens in Israel when the sirens stop? You know what happens? People begin to leave the mamads and the miklat, and they head back to the cafes of Tel Aviv. They head back to the synagogues of Jerusalem. They head back to the high-tech headquarters of Herzliya, and they head back to the fields of Be'eri. Because Od lo avda tikvatenu, our hope is not lost. We are much stronger. We are much stronger than any set of missiles. We are much stronger than Iran or Hezbollah or Hamas. We have been doing this for 2,000 years, and we will do it for 2,000 more, because Anachnu Shel Yisrael. We are of Israel.